It's the fastest I've ever adopted anything, which is Wispr
Uh-huh.
Flow. I can type, but I just don't like to type. I talk really fast and I need to be able to dictate into something quickly. Wispr Flow has AI built into it. It works on the phone and also on the MacBook, and it's got a hotkey on the MacBook. It's the most convenient time-saving thing I've installed in the past 6 months. I use it constantly, and it just gets smarter and better.
Hello, hello. Today I have the pleasure to introduce Samantha Hartley. Samantha partners with well-established mid-six-figure consultancies that have hit a revenue ceiling or feel weighted down by delivery and people challenges. Her clients often double revenues in their first year and cross the $1 million mark by increasing engagement size while reducing client load. She licenses her proven frameworks to firms ready to grow without costly trial and error. Previously in international marketing at the Coca-Cola Company, Samantha lives on Martha's Vineyard with her husband and their 3 spoiled fur kids. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jamie.
So let's jump directly into the first segment. What's your current Mac setup?
My current Mac setup, I have a MacBook Air M2. It has 24 gigabytes of memory, 995 gigabytes of hard drive, and I'm running Sequoia 15.7.1.
So it's good. I haven't jumped yet to the latest version, the 26. I'm reading horror stories from time to time.
I looked into it before I did it. I just had this inkling. Why don't I find out a little bit more? I know there's Tahoe, right? That's the big,
Yes.
big jump. There's a new version of Sequoia. So I saw the Tahoe. Usually I'm a beta on the iPhone. I'm always like, oh, no, we'll just do it. Fine. But my MacBook is the heart and soul of my business, a very important piece of equipment. So I was like, let me just find out a little bit more. And then I was like, oh, we're not going to do that just yet.
I always wait 1 or 2 years before installing it on my main machines. I usually try them out on an external hard drive. It's always safer. Safer.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
One of the reasons is that even though Apple is developing everything for the new operating system, it's not every app developer has the time to make it work fully. So what are the apps that you rely upon to run your business?
I have several that I'm very dedicated to. I run everything through Chrome right now, unless it fights me and I have to go somewhere else. On the MacBook, I'm a notes person. And I'm in a subreddit about notes, about how dedicated I am to notes. And someone, there's always speaking of horror stories, like somebody's notes got purged and they lost everything. And everybody was like, I would be completely devastated. So it's where absolutely everything is kept there. All of my session notes with clients, all of my personal notes. I do a data dump when I get up in the morning, which is a bullet point of what's on my mind today. Cute things that I find, links to social media that I get interrupted while I'm in the middle of looking at something. I'll put those links in there. It's really the brain, heart, and soul of my business. And a lot of people have tried to convince me to try Notion or something else instead. And I'm like, no, simple is best. The simplicity of notes is amazing. And I have it on my phone, so I can always be working, but I don't have to be working. I have developed, let's say, over the past few years, much better work boundaries. And so what I love is to be able to be available to my clients, to be available to my team whenever I want to. In the same way, during traditional work time, I might not be working at my desk officially. I really love notes, the portability of it, the shareability of it for that reason. I also use my photos that way as well. I'm looking forward to a time when we can categorize photos better. My photos are also used similarly for organizing videos and screenshots and swipe files. I also use Superhuman for my email. That is a paid email app that sits on top of Gmail. I'm sure a lot of people would have trouble with the idea of paying for something like, doesn't Gmail do everything you want it to do? So Superhuman is very much about the efficiency of being able to get through your inbox without distractions. They talk about inbox zero. I don't care about inbox zero. What I care about is that when I come in, you can segment your inboxes to where when I'm looking at the main screen of my email in Superhuman, here's the actual important ones. So if you have filters in Gmail, the scary thing for me is that if it's completely filtered, if it's not on page one of Gmail, I'll never see that email again. And that's too stressful. And so this does a better job of, and I have sophisticated filters on my Gmail because I've been using it for years. And so almost nothing ever makes it through. But Superhuman makes it to where the things that I really do need to see, it will prioritize those. And so when I open up my emails, I'm like, here's the 3 things without my squirrel brain going like, oh, what's that? Here's some over there. So that's a really, really good thing about it. It also has a lot of AI features built into it, which honestly, everybody's got that, and Gmail's stuff is improving. It's about equal in that way. The other thing it has is the ability to see when your stuff is delivered, see when it was open. So read receipts like we used to have back in the day when we were using Outlook. And then some other systems will have it. Well, Superhuman has very reliable read receipts. And that is important for me because if you're in sales, you need to know if somebody has opened your email. If you're my potential client, Damien, and I've sent you an email and I don't hear back for 2 days, I might think deliverability, right? Maybe it got caught up in the spam filters if you're a large company, but I can see on there if you've opened it up. And that's a peace of mind. The other thing I can see is if you've opened it up several times over the past 3 days, I still haven't heard from you, but I'm seeing that. That's intent. So you can assume a little bit of interest or purchase intent from that. And a lot of times when I'm thinking of following up with someone, I'll be able to check back. Another interesting thing that you can see is they have a whole running thing of when you're in the sidebar of your main email, it'll be who recent opens of your email. So that token or whatever is still in there. And so if somebody I was in touch with 6 months ago, I see they opened that email again, I'm like, wow, look who's resurfacing. It is in a way nefarious spyware. And I'm trying to do something good in the world. It's helpful to me trying to do something good in the world to see what those things are. So that is a very important feature. If you're in sales and you're not using something like that, then you're at a real disadvantage.
Yeah, I remember
So
I used a plugin for Gmail at one point that was doing that, and I stopped. I don't remember what the name of that was, but it was very handy to know whether or not your emails have been opened.
and then knowing the number of times they're opened and things like that, I really feel like that's good. I know the EU is much, much better with privacy and things like that than we are in the United States. I get why people are opposed to it, and I'm using it while it's still working. So that's Notes and Superhuman. There's a couple more that I wanted to mention. One is Loom. I was a very early user of Loom. This is a screen recording software, and you can also now record yourself. I'll make a Loom video that's 15 seconds long, 30 seconds long, just for anybody. Like if you're a friend of mine and you couldn't figure out, I sent you a link and you're like, I don't understand why it's doing that. I'll make you a Loom video. It's so easy and convenient. What people might not remember is there was a time when to screen record something, you then had to upload that somewhere to where it was hosted and then go figure out where that link was and then pay. Like it was so onerous. The magic of Loom is like, you have a link, paste, and it's like that. It saved me, especially in the early days. When working with an international team, you have people who don't necessarily have English as a first language. I'm in marketing, and so much is visual. I need to explain that this web page we need to move this thing. It's the whole picture is worth 1,000 words thing. It saves so much time. Loom is something I urge everybody to get, or if, again, things are evolving, somebody will acquire it and it'll be a part of G Suite soon. But for now, get Loom. I'm doing Basecamp. We talked about Basecamp. So Basecamp is online. It does have a desktop app. I try to keep things off of my desktop. So that probably is where we get into GPT. So GPT, I do have the desktop version of that. And I'm a dedicated GPT/Claude user, back and forth between the two for all the reasons. So we can come back and talk about those specifically. But those are my Mac apps. I also love this wonderful, simple tool called Freeform that you can use. It's kind of like a PowerPoint slide, but it's much simpler. You can hear how I love that, like just strip away all of this stuff and just give me notes, a basic board where I can put some photos, a little bit of text. We can make a mind map out of it, something like that. But I use that a lot in my hobbies outside of work.
Yeah, I would like to circle back to Note and to Loom a little bit. So to Note, have you heard about the application called Exporter? It's a free application available on the Mac App Store, and that allows you
Hmm.
to manually create backups. So to export your notes
Mm.
into either Markdown format or HTML format. I have a recurring reminder every Saturday at 6 p.m. I go on my computer, push a button on my Stream Deck, and it launches Exporter. I just have to click a button, and I have more than 1,000 notes. I have 2,179 notes.
Goodness.
All my standard operating procedures are in Apple Notes. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
really be furious if I lose those. And so every Saturday, I make a backup of those notes into a different format. So it's called
And why
Exporter.
do you do that? Okay, so I've written that down, but why do you do that instead of or in addition to iCloud? Because mine is backed up to iCloud, and I do go into iCloud and double check.
iCloud is not a backup. iCloud is
Yeah, I heard
iCloud
that.
is a synchronization service, right? You have a copy in the cloud, a copy on
Mm.
iCloud server, and technically it would be the master copy. Whatever you do on any device, and if there is an issue on the server itself, that issue will
Mm-hmm.
propagate everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And so there is still a get out of jail card, which is the 30-day bin,
Yeah.
right? When you delete a note,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
still available for 30
Accidental
days.
delete.
But you could delete part of a note and then realize, oh no,
Yeah, I know.
I should not have deleted that. How do you get it back? Unless you
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
immediately and then Command Z for undo,
Right.
a few hours later, that's gone.
Yeah. And you're saying iCloud has synchronized that mistake with
Yes,
it.
if you are connected to the internet, that's the power of Apple Note.
I know.
Sometimes I'm
Right.
on the same note on my MacBook Pro and my
Yeah,
iMac. I make some change on the MacBook Pro and I see it. After a few seconds,
I
boom,
know.
it's there.
Exactly. Me too on the phone. And if I come in and it has really picked up because for months it would not do that. And now it is instantaneous. So that is very helpful for me. And I am not entirely surprised. And I'll tell you why I'm not surprised that iCloud is not a true backup. Because when I was thinking about installing Tahoe, I went to my friend GPT and I said, should I do this? And if so, what should I know before I do it? And it said, well, first, you're going to want to make a backup. And I was like, why do I need a backup? Because I have a backup of my whole computer in iCloud. And it said, no, 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 my dear. Actually, what you have is a synchronization, Damien. You do not have a backup. And I was like, what? Tell me more. And it said, well, let's talk about this thing, Time Machine. So I know you're going to ask me in a minute, what's a new thing that I've learned about the Mac? Guess what I have learned that last week? I learned about this thing called a time machine. On its way to me right now and possibly on my doorstep is an external hard drive, which I've just purchased. And I will do a real backup. God forbid anything happen in the next 48 hours before I get that done. And I will also be backing up my notes.
Very good.
So thank you for the tip about Exporter. I will do that as well.
That's when I discovered that, I was like, wow. It was something I didn't know I needed. Well, actually, I knew I needed, but I thought there was no solution until I
Yeah,
discovered.
that's really good when you think there's no solution, but there
Yeah.
actually is.
And then it's a good link. I was talking about standard operating procedure. If we go back to Loom, I've heard that now it's possible to get Loom to create an SOP out of a recording. Have you played with that?
Mm. I have not because I don't really use the AI features of
Mhm.
Loom as much, but because we do this manually, but that it makes total sense to me that you could do that. It's really imitating a manual process that we use. So you're my new team member, and I'm going to say, Damien, sit beside me, and I'm going to walk you through everything I do, and we'll have this video that you can go back to and look at if you need to remember anything. And I would have you, as the person writing the SOP, write all of the steps down that I'm doing, and then we'd confirm them with each other, and then that would output an SOP. And this is basically doing the exact same thing, except the AI is able to pull it out of a video, which makes total sense.
Yeah. And you're right. What I've seen or heard is it's an AI feature. It's using a large language model that uses the transcription to pull out basically the steps of the process.
Which the best of them are doing that
Yeah.
right now. I think Fathom to me is the best I've seen in meetings for pulling out, here's what's happened in this meeting and here's what the next steps are and things like that.
Yeah, so it's a good way to enter the AI segment. You mentioned ChatGPT. Do you have a paid account?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And yeah,
definitely. I have the $20 level of paid. I have the paid of that one in Claude, and I've been using GPT since January when everybody started that
mhm.
one immediately, and then I just went into it.
What do you like the most about ChatGPT and Claude, and what makes you go to one versus the other?
What I specifically love about GPT is strategy. All of my things down the left hand side are named categories. I don't have projects for everything. Some of them are just really long chats because they're not that long. But I'll have, cooking food recipes, pet stuff, dog and cat stuff. I'll have gardening one. So themed topics that I can dip into and ask a question. My house plants, dream interpretation, and then obviously that's all of the personal stuff. And then all of my work stuff will be search engine optimization and legal things. I have a long series of topics and then I can just dip back into it. What I've really enjoyed is watching it evolve over time because it was so clunky in the beginning compared to how it is now. I think we were all using it and feeling like, oh, amazing, not too bad. And then after a while, it started to be like, holy cow, this is incredible. I'm on 5.1 version now, and I think it's really remarkable. But about three-fourths of the way through, it drove me to Claude. Somebody had said to me in the very beginning, Claude's way better at writing. You should definitely use Claude. And I was dedicated to this one. And then it started to be terrible at writing. So I went to Claude. And as I got Claude ramped up, that's when 5 came out. That's when I started
Yeah.
using that. And what I mostly advise people to do is just bounce back and forth between them. I think that GPT is stronger at strategy and structural thinking, but nobody will ever write like Claude. Claude can sound like me. I have an advantage in working with the models because I've worked with ghostwriters and I have ghostwriters on my team and I've used ghostwriters to write. I have a team of writers who write for my clients and some writers who have succeeded up the ranks to write for me. It's because when it's your own stuff, you feel more precious about it. Like I know the difference between my voice and that voice. For the client stuff, I'm like, that sounds exactly like the client. And they're like, sure, good enough. The Claude has been able to, my best ghostwriters who have written for me, I would go back and look at stuff and be like, I can't remember who wrote that piece, whether I wrote it or the ghostwriter wrote it. Once you get that real blend, seamless, that's really the way Claude has been able to write for me on some things. We can get into all of the mixed feelings about the ethics and the environmental impact and like, should you allow the thing to write for you and how your audience can tell? There's so much about that. I had ghostwriters who wrote for me. And now I have a machine that's a ghostwriter writing for me. Does that mean your ghostwriters are out of work? No, my ghostwriters are using these tools to help them be more efficient, produce more work, and work fewer hours. So those are the things that I'm using them for. But what I really enjoy is being able to do my personal work, journaling, interactive journaling with these models. And I think that's really been super fun. And then as far as work stuff, a lot of us want thought partners. And I, as a consultant for my clients, I am a thought partner to my own clients. And what's funny is I think it's easy to think like, well, you're going to end up out of a job too. It's the third partner in my client relationships. So it's not like I've been replaced by them. They'll say, well, GPT said blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, well, here's a blah, blah, blah. Or somebody will call me and they'll say, what should I do about X? And I'll say, here's this. And they'll say, that's what GPT said. And I'm like, well, good. So I feel like it's just another smart person in the room, whether it's Claude or GPT. And I don't think it's something to get threatened by, but it's like, cool, we have another smart participant in this
Mhm.
experience.
How much of the personalization and customization are you using for Claude? I know they have Claude projects where you can have custom instructions, some knowledge. In ChatGPT, you can do that with a project, or you can do that with a custom GPT. How much have
Mm-hmm.
you experimented with that?
I definitely use projects in both of those as much as you can load into there. We'll get smarter with that. A lot of custom instructions. I made a custom GPT way back in the very beginning. I was curious when I heard other people talking about this because they'd be like, oh, I have a custom GPT. And I'd be like, do people know something that I don't know? Because what I find is if you create it with this personality here, like the strong, specific personality, you can bend it over time and it's just going to start to sound like GPT again eventually. If I'm creating something that I want to have this knowledge, something that I did recently was I started working with an online journal called Rosebud, and I've talked to you about this one. It's a journaling app, but it's also like mental health, self-care. They have like all kinds of gratitude journal and all kinds of, but it's basically an interactive facilitated journal. And the reason I started using it was because it's exactly what I've been doing with both ChatGPT and Claude. The problem with those is that their memory would be crap. If you reference something, it would forget. I have a specific protocol for doing dream interpretation. It could not remember the protocol. And every 5 experiences with it, it would just fail. I would be like, why are you doing that instead of using the protocol? Oh, I forgot. If an employee forgot 5 times, Damien, if a team member did, you can forget once. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. You can forget twice. But seriously, I mean, 3 strikes, you're out, right? You cannot. So both of them, that was my problem. I fled GPT after that because I feel like I can't trust your business information that you give to me. I can't trust anything you say to me if you can't remember a 5-step process. It's very credibility eroding. So I would work with Claude, and Claude would be better about remembering things. This is even with projects and continuity within the thing. It would still screw up. I'm like, you can't be screwing up again. If I'm going to create a GPT that I'm going to sell to someone else or a custom chatbot or something like that, then the memory fails or it can't do the process. To me, these tools are not ready for prime time. They need guardrails. They need like structures. So I'm using a lot of other people's tools because I want to see what other people are able to make happen, or if I can also break their bots the way they have programmed them. So I know that Rosebud sits on top of ChatGPT and Claude both. You can maybe select for both of them. In my experience, it has failed on remembering the dream protocol at least once. It has been the best at maintaining a specific personality that I believe they have programmed into it. I have also coded into it by saying, here's my preferences. It's been able to be most consistent of anything I've seen so far. And I'm only maybe 100 days into using it. So it's not like I have the history that I have of the years with GPT and Claude. So far, I'm seeing that it's better at being consistent.
Yeah, so there's something that many people do not realize, that there is something called the context window. The context window is on a per conversation basis. And also, depending on the model, certain models have smaller context window, other models have longer context windows. ChatGPT is actually much worse than Claude in that
Yeah.
respect. And so I think it was O1 that started to increase the context window. But before that, it was maximum 24,000 words. So you would create a GPT, you would start the conversation with the GPT. Its custom instruction is at the top of the conversation, right? And then you start interacting with it. And as soon as you hit the 24,000 word limit, it starts to forget because it can only go back 24,000 words. The trick is at one point to create a new conversation. Claude has a higher context window. I don't remember now which one, but I think it is closer to a few 100,000, like 200,000 or
Mm-hmm.
300,000 tokens, which is 3/4 of that in words. So much bigger than ChatGPT. The best though, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you have experimented with that because I think you have a Google Workspace for business account, is
I
Gemini.
do.
Gemini
Yeah.
is a 1 million token context
Mm.
window. And I have a very long conversation with Gemini, with my GPTs. Well, no, sorry, with my gems,
Mm-hmm.
because in Gemini, the equivalent of a custom GPT is a gem. I have a co-CEO, I have a co-CMO, a co-CFO. I have, because I'm providing corporate training, so Microsoft Office training for corporations, and I have a curriculum developer. I have instructions, and also I have given it a few examples of how I structure my training courses. And now I'm able in half a day to create a brand new module with the instructor
Mm.
notes. It's more submitting a training proposal to a client. And then it takes me another half day to prepare the slides, the training material, and so on, which is much faster than what I did in the past. The reason
Fantastic.
why now I'm using more and more Gemini for those kind of tasks, and I still keep ChatGPT on the side for, as you said, for research is very good. And also I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoy more the voice mode of ChatGPT, the way it interacts
Hmm.
as a conversation, right? Voice conversation.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than ChatGPT. But regarding the
Yeah.
context, Gemini is still the best. And so I can have a very long conversation with Gemini and doesn't lose the instructions that are at the
The
very top
context.
of
Yeah.
that conversation.
Yeah. I remember the first time I ran out of a conversation, and it was one of these, soul ones. I had sculpted it, got feedback, and it was finally exactly how I wanted it. And then we ran out of, came to the end, and I was like, oh, dear Lord. this is, now, I think my favorite thing to do is to tell it at that point, prepare your replacement, tell your replacement everything it needs to know about how to work best with me. And that was actually what I put into Rosebud. That is actually how I'll train the others. And I think that same kind of thing with context for each of my clients is putting a bunch of stuff in and then saying, tell me everything you need to know about this client and their writing style and their preferences and things like that. And having that context be done by the AI itself, because what it's remarkable at is synthesis of information and the ability to be concise and specific in communicating that. But that's great to know about Gemini. I've heard you talk about your
Yeah,
coworkers.
my
C-suite,
C-suite.
C-suite. Yeah, that's fabulous.
I can spot immediately when it has lots of instructions. But for people
Yeah.
who start, I heard
Yeah.
a nice tip is at the end of the custom instruction, you tell it to write a word. So to create a new paragraph and write a specific word like cauliflower. So it will answer you
Yeah.
and then it will write cauliflower. As soon as
And that means it's out.
it stops saying cauliflower, you know you've exceeded the context.
Okay, so that'll be the consistency throughout every response.
Exactly. You tell it to do something very specific that has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
typical instruction. And it's for you to spot check the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
see that word that you want it to write every time. It lost the thread.
Interesting. Well, I think also in a sense of decluttering and going through things and not hanging on to too much stuff, you could also tidy all of these old ones and be starting new ones on an ongoing basis, because we don't need to hoard all of the information in those old ones. But it's kind of like why I like your exporter idea. Are there good exporters for ChatGPT and Claude to be able to output this information and get it into a better, more usable format than these epic chats?
I haven't found yet. It's a good point. I'm going to write that down to look for potentially a Chrome extension or something like that, a browser add-on
Hmm.
that would be able to export the chat. Thanks to Europe and GDPR, it's possible to ask those services to export all your chats, but it's one big file.
Yeah. It's a beast. Yeah.
It's a good point.
I found something that I was so upset about potentially losing. I went in there and got it, and it was, I don't know, 40 pages or something like that. I did have to use a browser extension to be able to select all of it. Originally, it would only select one chat at a time. I mean, it's years of my life. I need to be able to get the whole thing. So that is an improvement. Everything is evolving and our needs are evolving. And so maybe someone has invented this already. But I have the same thing with this app, because the Rosebud app, which is the journal, I'm going to want to pull that stuff out of there. So far, it's, as you're saying, it's like you can, here's the CSV file or some nonsense, but that's not going to be helpful.
Yeah. One of the reasons I like Gemini is whenever you ask it to do some deep research and create a report, or you ask it to create a table, there is a neat button that says like copy to sheets. Right? So it creates a table, you say copy to sheets, it's in Google Sheets automatically. You're in your Google Drive. If you have a big report after a deep research project, you have copy to Google Doc. It creates a Google Doc for you in an instant. So that's that. In ChatGPT, there's always the problem when you have a big report, you have to drag and copy. And if you use the copy button, you don't really have all the times the correct formatting. You really have to select with the mouse to have the formatting.
I know.
And with Gemini, it's a button copy. They have even added new features. I don't remember. I've not played with that, but I've noticed the button that says copy to Google Doc has a few other options now like create an app
Really?
and stuff like that.
That's great. I have not used Gemini at all, except for what is happening naturally with Google Workspace, but I will definitely take a
Mhm.
look at that because my business is built around Gmail, Google, all of Google
Mhm.
Suite. For a long time, I was dedicated to Microsoft Office, which I know is a lot of your work. When you come out of corporate, it's in your blood. Over time, I don't think I'll ever be able to use Google Drive, whatever their presentation nonsense is. I do use Google Sheets and then Google Docs, and I think those are fantastic, especially since we're collaborative. We're a distributed team, we're online, we're collaborating. I just like the interactive nature of that. And so that's really good to be able to use that way.
Yeah, you need a minimum Google Workspace for Business standard plan to have the full package. Access to the Gemini side panel on the right side when you are in Sheets, in Docs, in Drive, in Mail, and because there is a Google Workspace for Business starter, and you can only do
Mm,
Gemini, a little bit on Gmail and Notebook LM. But if you want the full power of Gemini inside Google Workspace, Google Drive, and Google Sheets, you need the standard version. I've created my co-CEO, co-CMO, co-CFO as gems in Gemini. But I can be
mhm.
in a Google Sheet, open the side panel,
Ah.
type at co-CEO, and then ask a question about the data. And the
Yeah.
co-CEO can see now the context of the co-CEO is its instructions, its knowledge, and the Google Sheet I'm in.
Oh my God.
It's really magical to realize
Is
that
it
you
is
can pull the thing immediately, and it's really great.
just like a real
Yes.
person. Well, that's really good. I really like that. I remembered one tool that I didn't talk about much yet, Damien, and it's the fastest I've ever adopted anything, which is Wispr
Uh-huh.
Flow. It's a dictation software. I think I was probably using something else before I got my Mac. I don't like to type. And I can type. I've been typing since I was a child, but I just don't like to type. Also, I talk really fast and I need to be able to dictate into something really quickly. We've all had experiences talking into your phone and wanted to punctuate with all the
Mhm.
commas, and then it will misunderstand you and just all kinds of silliness on the phone. So, Whisper Flow has AI built into it. It works on the phone and also on the MacBook. And it's got a hotkey on the MacBook. It's great on the phone because I don't want to type there either. But at least I'm more commonly using something to talk into the phone. But at my desk, I have to use this little F5 key, and sometimes it wants to work and sometimes it's conflicted with somebody else and all the nonsense. This thing, I just press it down for 2 seconds and say 2 words and pick it back up. It'll punctuate it and it learns. So it'll learn your specific words. If I'm writing to you, it'll notice in the to field that you're Damien EN instead of AN, and it'll correct accordingly. And if it doesn't, it has a little AI mode, so I can push the function key for dictation or I can push the function and control at the same time. This is on the pro version. Those two keys at the same time, and then I can give it an AI command like learn Damien with an EN, or I can say bold this sentence or make this more concise, and it'll do that. It's intuitive, it's AI and learning quickly. I can make a bulleted list, and then the whole thing is a bulleted list, and I can highlight everything with 2 fingers and remove all of the bullets. It's the most convenient time-saving thing I've installed in the past 6 months. I use it
Mhm.
constantly, and it just gets smarter and better.
Yeah, I've discovered that tool this week. And for the
Yeah.
listener, it's spelled WISPR and then Flow. I attended a webinar where they demonstrated another AI tool, and the guy was using Wispr Flow to write the prompts because typing was so
Because
slow.
seriously, yeah.
And so I discovered that. I looked at it in the morning today, and then I realized that I already use a tool called Mac Whisper that I've been using
Hmm.
for years now. And the primary use case for Mac Whisper is not dictation, it's pure transcription. So I can give it the audio version of a webinar, podcast episode with multiple people speaking, and it will recognize the speakers. And so I remember that there was a dictation button. I was like, let's look at
Yeah.
that. And actually, I'm able now to reproduce the Whisper Flow features with that Mac Whisper
Yeah.
tool. It's a game changer because there is typical dictation, as you said, the built-in Mac dictation. You have to
Yeah.
say comma, space, new paragraph, and it's
Yeah.
very slow and you don't see.
It's very slow.
And here with this Wispr Flow, what people have to realize, it does the transcription, but on top of that, there is an LLM that reprocesses what has been transcribed. And so if you
Yeah.
say something like, let's meet tomorrow at 5 p.m., no, 5:30 p.m., right?
Yeah.
Traditional transcription, you will say PM, no, no, no,
You'll
it
see,
will rewrite
right?
everything. Whereas with Wispr Flow or Mac Whisper, it
Yeah.
corrects the transcription. It's so great.
It's fantastic. The only downside is that sometimes it will make editorial choices for me that I don't like. And so I want it to not do that. My favorite thing that it has done is that I was dictating a note and the dog barked in the background. It went woof. One time the cat walked in while I was dictating and he was saying meow, 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 and it typed mwah, mwah. It was really clever and amusing. I'm just really open to the time when we don't have to be limited by all of the things we need to type, because just like you said, it'll correct what you're saying. And then she said to me, well, I'm going to be going there too. And so then I responded, well, I can't make it. It'll put those things in quotation marks, and it is tedious to type something to put everything correctly punctuated in
Mhm.
quotation marks. It's just a huge time saver. What I'm doing a lot is taking text off of large sheets of paper that I need to put into lists. It's part of the work that I'm doing. And you can't hold this thing and type. It's a mess. So anyway, it's a huge time saver and yes, game changer. One last thing is it does also understand multiple languages. I can switch
Mhm.
languages in the process and it'll write the thing in the different language, which I also appreciate.
Yeah. It's very quick. I saw the guy doing it on his MacBook, and it was not instant, but a few seconds. It's the same with Mac Whisper, but it's better on an Apple Silicon Mac. On the iMac,
Mm.
which is my iMac is still an Intel Mac, it's too slow. It takes too much time for the transcription to appear on the screen and then to do the post processing. Whereas on the MacBook Pro, which is Apple Silicon, it's much faster. Yeah.
Good.
Very,
Great tools.
very good. So let's go to the next segment of the show. I think you alluded to that about the tip or the trick or something that you discovered on your Mac. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just in time before imminent disaster, I did discover that I was supposed to have been backing it up all this time onto Time Machine. And I had heard of the Time Machine, but I thought it was probably automatically doing it. I had no idea at any point that I was supposed to have an external hard drive. So that was my discovery from last week. And that is a really good thing. One of the things I use ChatGPT for, and I try to be diligent on my use of it, I don't use it for generating silly pictures or doing research that I could have done in Google. I try to use it for sensible uses. But I got an external hard drive recently, not hard drive, monitor, and it would not connect. I have it on voice command when I'm, I don't usually talk to it. It sounds like you talk to yours a lot more than I do, but I'm usually, well, I'm talking, but I'm typing. I mean, I'm using Wispr Flow to talk to it. In this case, I had it talk me through how to hook these things up. And it also talked me through this Time Machine. When that part comes, I'm sure it'll be quite intuitive, but either way, I'm going to have it talk me through how to set that up. It's a pretty good combination, an important feature on the Mac that I did not know about. I've been a Mac owner since 2016. This is my second one, and we've just been skating out there with no insurance policy.
Time Machine is it's also I've used Windows machines in the past. There is no thing as easy as Time Machine on the PC, even today. It's
Really,
unbelievable.
really.
And the beauty of Time Machine is twofold. So yes, it's a backup, and if you have an issue, you will be able to restore files. And a little bit like when you buy a new iPhone and you restore from iCloud and you get a clone from your iPhone, you can do the same thing with your Time Machine backup. You plug it to the new Mac, and then boom, it takes everything. But a feature that I use much more than that is actually restoring files or applications.
Yeah.
And that is really great with Time Machine because it will do a backup you can configure it, right? Every hour or once a day or once a week. If you use your Mac, if you have a lot of calls, online meetings during the day, I recommend to put it to maybe once a day or once a week.
Mhm.
There is an application called Time Machine Editor. With Time Machine Editor, you can configure when Time Machine backups will take place. And so I have configured it so that it takes place like very early morning, like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Before I wake up, it will do a Time Machine backup, but it will prevent Time Machine from running during the day. Because if you are in a call and it
Yeah.
starts to do a Time Machine backup, in some cases, it can slow the computer down.
Yeah.
But very recently, I had an application that auto-updated it, and suddenly it was not working anymore. So I just opened the applications folder, fired up Time Machine, and went back 2 or 3 days in the past, selected the old version of the app, restore, and I was good to go.
Interesting. Do you think that the issue had been that it hadn't what was there a problem with the
Yes,
app?
there was a bug with the latest version of the app.
You could go back to a previous version of it and then it'll come back.
Exactly. And
Great.
if you delete files by mistake and you empty the trash, you can go back in time. I had one client who had a lot of precious videos on his desktop. He deleted them by mistake, then emptied the trash.
Oh my gosh,
Went on
buddy.
vacation, then came back and then realized, oh, where are those videos? Luckily, he had a Time Machine backup, so we could go back
Wow.
1 month in the past, get those files back.
Wow. Okay, well, that's super important. And you said the thing about the phone, and I think that was the deal is because the phone backs up to the cloud, I thought that the Mac was also backing up to the cloud, and that was the same thing. I have learned that is something different now. So I should set it not to back up during work hours because it will mess with my many Zooms
Yeah,
during the
it
day.
can mess up with the Zoom, exactly.
Got it. These are great tips. Thank you.
Very good. If you were in charge of the Mac division at Apple, what would be your first priority, whether it's hardware or software or both?
My first priority would be to figure out how to help people find things in Finder. If you go to search in Finder and you say, I was just working on a file called Tuesday this week, and you search for that file, you'll get some sort of .js file. You'll get some sort of temp out of anywhere. You can literally put the name in and it will not be the first thing that appears. By contrast, on a PC, when you look for something, it immediately puts the most recent thing with a name like that up there. It doesn't give you all kinds of nonsense. I do not understand it. I'm looking for stuff in Finder and it's crazy and irresponsible. I know somebody who has a business teaching people how to tag their stuff in Mac so that you can just put in, it's like this whole kind of like, it's one of those like second brain
Yes.
things, like build a second brain, and it's all about using tags for everything. And I'm like, no, this is stupid. I should be able to look for a word inside of a document, just like you can do in Google Drive or Gmail. What do I love about Gmail? I never delete anything. I have stuff in there from probably 15 years at this point. I can search for a word and it'll say, hey, you have an attachment with this word in it. But first it surfaces, probably here's 6 things that it probably is. The MacBook never does that. That would be my first thing that I would do. Is there some tool out there already, Damien, that would do this for me?
So first of all, you're not the only one. It's a very known issue. Spotlight indexes everything on the Mac.
Yeah.
And whatever you search in the Finder window, it's like looking only for the file version or not the index of Spotlight. Historically, it has had issues. There are workarounds in the sense that you can go to settings, you can go to Syrian Spotlight, and you can remove the locations that it indexes, then re-add those locations, and it will refresh the index. That's one thing that one can do. But honestly, like you, I've been frustrated, and so
How
I
is this a
switched to another tool.
thing?
I installed Raycast, which is a competitor to Spotlight, but on steroids. The reason why it works better is Raycast is building different indexes. One index for files folders, another index for Apple Notes, another index for these kind of things. And so, for instance, searching for an Apple Note with Raycast is super
Yeah.
quick. I invoke
Yeah.
Raycast, I do SN for search notes, and then I type a few words. Usually the note I'm looking for is at the top.
But you don't do that from within Notes?
I actually find notes faster with Raycast than within notes, and
Okay.
especially much faster than Spotlight. And for
Yeah.
files, same thing. I fire up Raycast, then I type SF for search files. I type a few letters or a word, and usually the file I'm looking for is among the top choice. Maybe not the first one, but as you said, it doesn't show me crap like temporary file
Yeah.
or stuff like that. I was like,
Yeah.
why do you show me those? I don't want temporary files.
Some sort of like the digestive files from inside the guts of the computer,
Yes,
I don't think I'm supposed to be seeing that kind of
exactly.
thing. I have heard that there was something, and I've never used the Spotlight thing. I was with a client on a Zoom one time and she used it, and I thought, oh, I forget about that Spotlight thing. I would prefer something that actually did work. So I'll try the Raycast. I had heard about something that sat on top of it and would do a better job with it. So I'll definitely look into that. Because it's ridiculous. You have to come up with some sort of workarounds, which I have done. It's embarrassing for the company that this is an issue. When I heard you say recently on an episode, I can go into my photos and I can say, show me all the pictures of Satchel, my dog, and it will show them to me. It sometimes mistakes my other blue runner and will show me some pictures of her. I'm like, that's pretty good. It knows my friends by their faces and it doesn't know my file by the literal name. So it's
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I know that with Tahoe, with the latest version of macOS, they have improved Spotlight and they incorporated functionalities that today is standard with Raycast. But like you, I don't want to touch Tahoe for the moment, so I'm not
Right.
trying out that new Spotlight. If you install Spotlight, it will ask you what will be the trigger keys, right? So Spotlight is usually command
Yeah.
space. So because I'm still
Mhm.
using Spotlight for a few things like calculations or currency conversion, I have
Mhm.
configured Raycast to be option space, but nothing prevents you
Mhm.
from, because if you don't use Spotlight at all, right, you could say, oh, Raycast is command space as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That'd be what I
You,
do.
yeah.
I don't understand using Spotlight when I'm in my files. If I'm like, for example, I want to see all of my agreements, then I put agreement in Finder. I don't want to go to somewhere out on my
Mhm.
desktop and see everything called agreement. I just don't understand. I want to be in this ecosystem and not way out there.
Yeah, when you're in Finder, I think it's Command F, the keyboard shortcut that
Mhm.
immediately jumps to the search in the top right corner of
Mhm.
Finder, the search window. You can start typing name.
Yeah.
Technically, you can use name colon, and it will force
Right.
Finder to look for files whose name contains the word rather than the content of the file.
It's like a no, no, really command. No, no, actually try. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying. You're like name colon. I shouldn't have to do that with a computer, Dave.
you're totally right. It should show us first the files that it knows has this in the name and afterwards
Yeah.
what's inside. But yeah, that's an issue.
Hmm.
Very good. Where can people find you?
You can find me at my website, which is samanthahartley.com. And on the socials, I'm most active for my work on LinkedIn, where I'm also Samantha Hartley. LinkedIn.com/Samantha Hartley.
Very good. I will put links in the show notes. Thank you very much for sharing with me and the audience all the tools that you use. For me, Superhuman is something that I'm looking at being on
Thinking about
Google Workspace.
it just merged with
They are part of Grammarly now.
I think it's more, yeah, I'm not sure who's a part of whom, but there was if it was an acquisition or a merger, but those just got merged. So they're together, which I think is a nice little marriage. Wispr Flow just raised 25 billion, which is I think a total now of an 81 billion dollar raise for them. So, these companies are up and coming. We can also invest in them as well as using
Exactly.
them.
Thank you for being on the show and sharing all those tools with us.
Thank you. I always love hearing your tips and tools, and I'd love to hear from anybody who has any ideas about how to make search on the Mac better.
Very good. If, like Samantha, you would like to share how you are using your Mac to run your solopreneur business, it's simple. Just visit macpreneur.com/apply. If you are already on Podmatch, click on the button and you will land on the show profile. Otherwise, fill the application form and I will get back to you within a few days. Once again, it's macpreneur.com/apply. In the comments below, please share your main takeaway from this episode. And if it's not done yet, please subscribe to my channel so we'll get more helpful tips on how to run your business on your Mac. And until next time, I'm Damesh Rose, wishing you a great day.
Thank you for watching the Macpreneur podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and share it with a friend right now.